I've got a problem here. It says, find the exact value of sine of theta, cos of theta, and tan of theta for theta being equal to 2/3 of pi, 5/4 of pi, and minus 13/6 of pi. Okay, well, I'll have a go at starting with 2/3 of pi. I think I should first figure out where that is in the unit circle. So there's a unit circle. Pi would be this distance, so 2/3 of pi would be there. That's my 2/3 of pi. And that's in the second quadrant, where, let's see, sine is positive at the top, cos is positive over here, and tan is positive here. So sine will be positive here, cos will be negative here, and tan will be negative here. Just useful to know. Okay, so I know that the quickest way to figure out sine, cos, and tan of an angle is to use the angle that is between here and the nearest multiple of pi. So the nearest multiple of pi is there, and if this is 2/3 of pi here, then this is 1/3 of pi here. And I know what the answers are for 1/3 of pi. There's a triangle that goes with that. So let's see. 1/3 of pi is 60 degrees, which would be half of an equilateral triangle. And if I put a 1 here and a 2 here, then this is a √3. And if I divide everything by 2, then that'll give me sine and cos. Okay, and tan will be the slope, which should be this divided by this, which would be √3 on 1. Okay, so tan of 1/3 of pi, not tan. Cos of 1/3 of pi would be a half. Sine of 1/3 of pi would be √3 on 2. And tan of 1/3 of pi would be √3 on 1. Okay, so sine, cos, and tan for 2/3 of pi should be the same, except that they should be plus or minus depending on which quadrant we're in. So therefore, cos of 2/3 of pi should be negative, because this cos is negative over this side. Sine of 2/3 of pi should still be positive, because sine is positive at the top. And tan of 2/3 of pi should be negative, because it's a negative slope over this side. Okay, cool. 2 more angles to go. So if theta was equal to 5/4 of pi, in my unit circle, 5/4 is 1 1/4 lots of pi. So it's 1 whole pi plus 1/4 of pi. So if that's a whole pi, then 1/4 would be here. So that's my 5/4 of pi. And the distance between here and the nearest multiple of pi is this, which is 1/4 of pi. And so I should use the answer for 1/4 of pi first. So that one's based on half of a square. If this is 1 and this is 1, then this is √2. And if I divide everything by √2, I'll get that. Okay, so cos of 1/4 of pi is 1 on √2, because it's the adjacent side. Sine of 1/4 of pi is 1 on √2, because it's the opposite side. And tan of 1/4 of pi is 1, because it's the slope, so it's this divided by that, which is 1 over 1, which is 1. Okay, and so therefore, since I'm actually in the third quadrant, I can figure out what everything is. Cos of 5/4 of pi is, let's see, cos is the x-coordinate, so it's negative over this side. Sine is the y-coordinate, so it's negative down the bottom. And tan is the slope. Oh, that should be a 5. So it's positive in that direction. Okay, one more angle to go. Minus 13 on 6 pi. Okay. All right, well, 13 on 6, 12 on 6 would be 2. So 2 and a 6th of pi. Okay. So x minus means I'm going this way. So that's 1 pi, 2 pi, and another 1/6 of pi. Okay. So 1 pi, 2 pi, and another 1/6 of pi is there. Okay, so the distance to the nearest multiple pi is this, which is pi, 1/6 of pi. And this is minus 13/6 of pi. All right. Okay, so 1/6 of pi. Well, my equilateral triangle that I drew before, if I cut that in half, this angle is a 1/6 of pi because it's 30 degrees. So if we go 1, 2, √3 and divide everything by 2, now the hypotenuse is 1, so cos is this and sine is this. So cos of 1/6 of pi is a half. Sine of 1/6 of pi is √3 on 2. No, sorry. I'll always get that wrong because it's up a different way. If I'd drawn it this way, it might have been easier to get right. Right, cos is the adjacent side to my angle, and my angle's up here, so the adjacent side is there, is √3 on 2. Sine of a 1/6 of pi is a half, and tan of 1/6 of pi should be this divided by this, which is 1 on √3. Okay, so my angle is actually in the fourth quadrant, and so cos is still positive in the fourth quadrant because cos is positive over this side. So it'll still be √3 on 2. Sine of minus 13/6 of pi is negative because it's below down here. And tan of minus 13/6 of pi is also negative because the slope is negative on that, in that downward side. Okay, so I've figured out sine, cos, and tan for all three of my angles using the unit circle.